So it's exciting that finally someone is, and it happens to be the Republicans in Congress who are pushing back against the censorship on social media surrounding the cabal of censorship around the 2020 election of Hunter Biden's laptop and also about COVID. And here is a representative from Florida, Representative Luna, corners former Twitter exec on platform's alleged collusion with. So watch this. I sped this up. But the important, the reason why I want to show you this, a couple of reasons. It's fun. It's exhilarating to see these people who are censoring. By the way, I think it was RFK. He said, hey, have you ever, can you point to a time in history when the people doing the censoring turned out to be the good guys? Has there ever been a time when the censorers were on the right side of anything? No, of course not. They're always the bad guys. So if you're for censorship now, you're on the wrong side of history, even though you think you're virtuous.
Not even when, in those Batman movies, when James Gordon hid the truth about Harvey Dent, it caused riot. There has never once been the right thing.
Never. So here, let's just enjoy this. This representative, I think she's from Florida. Let's watch.
Communicated with government officials ever on a platform called Jira.
So she asks this guy, the guy who's that head censor guy over at Twitter, Roth, that Yoel Roth, and she found that there was a private server that all these like groups, these private lefty groups, would communicate with the government and Twitter on about censoring stuff. And she asks him, have you ever spoken with the government, somebody from the government, about censoring shit on a private server named Gria or whatever it is?
Who are the groups?
Oh, she's going to show. Oh, okay. It'll show.
Communicated with government officials ever on a platform called Jira.
Jira.
Yes or no? Real quick answer. We're on the clock.
Not to the best of my recollection.
Not your recollection? Great. If you did, in the event, communicate, who would have had access to this platform?
That's the nature of my confusion.
Okay.
Jira
did you ever
that's the nature of my. She's like, who would else have access to this platform? If you did communicate with the government about censorship on this private platform, who else would have access to it? She knows the answers to this because you never ask a question you don't know the answer. And he's pretending he's an idiot. He doesn't know anything. Of course he does.
Government officials on Jira regarding taking down social media posts?
Again, not to the best of my recollection.
Can you explain to me why the federal government would ever have interest in communicating through Jira, mind you, a private cloud server, with social media companies without oversight to censor American voices? I want to let you know that this is a violation of the First Amendment, and the federal government is colluding with social media companies to censor Americans. Mr. Chairman, I ask for unanimous consent to submit these graphics into record. And Mr. Roth, I'm going to refresh your memory for you. This flowchart behind you. Thank you, Chair. This flowchart shows the following federal agencies, social media companies, Twitter, leftist nonprofits, and organizations communicating regarding their version of misinformation using Jira, a private cloud server. On this chart, I want to annotate that the Department of Homeland Security, which has the following branches: Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA, Countering Foreign Intelligence Task Force, now known as the Misinfo, Disinfo, and Malinformation, MDM. This was again used against the American people. The Election Partnership Institute.
So she's naming all these organizations. Hang on. She's naming all these organizations that had access to this private server that communicated with the government about censoring.
Because it's a big job. We got to outsource to every.
So every NGO out there has
Integrity Partnership, EIP, which includes the following.
So here, Election Integrity Partnership, social media companies like Twitter, they had, the Department of Homeland Security had access through CISA, which is their Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Then they would communicate through Jira, Twitter. Look at all this. CIS, Center for Internal Security. University of Washington Center for the Informed Public. So there's all these people had access to
Atlantic Council.
Atlantic Council, for F's sake. So she's got him. She was asking him about this, and he's like, bird.
Stanford, wasn't that the one with the new list of all the words you can't say? Yeah.
Stanford Internet Observatory, University of Washington Center for Informed Public, Graphica, and Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, and potentially, according to what we found on the final report by EIP, the DNC. The Center for Internet Security.
And the DNC, she said. According to her, the DNC had access to this. The Democratic National Committee.
CIS, a nonprofit funded by DHS, the National Association of Secretaries of State, also known as NASS, and the National Association of State Election Directors, NASED. And in this case, because there are other social media companies involved, Twitter. What do all of these groups, though, have in common? And I'm going to, again, refresh your memory. They were all communicating on a private cloud server known as Jira. Now, the screenshot behind me, which is an example of one of thousands, shows on November 3rd, 2020, that you, Mr. Roth, a Twitter employee, were exchanging communications on Jira, a private cloud server, with CISA, NASS, NASED, and Alex Stamas, who now works at Stanford and is a former security officer at Facebook, to remove a posting. Do you now remember communicating on a private cloud server to remove a posting? Yes or no?
I wouldn't agree with the
I don't care
characterization.
if you agree. This is
This is amazing. She's got it right in front of him. And he's like, well,
this is your stuff. Yes or no? Did you communicate with a private entity, the government agency, on a private cloud server? Yes or no?
The question was if I could.
Yes or no? Yeah, I'm on time. Yes or no?
Ma'am, I don't believe I can give you a yes or no.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now that you did, and we have proof of it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is joint action between the federal government and a private company to censor and violate the First Amendment. This is also known, and I'm so glad that there's many attorneys on this panel, joint state actors. It's highly illegal. You are all engaged in this action, and I want you to know that you will be all held accountable. Miss Gaddy, are you still on CISA's Cybersecurity Advisory Council? Yes or no? Yes, I am. Okay. For those who have said that this is a pointless hearing, and I just want to let you guys all know, we found that.
so that was AOC who said it was a pointless hearing, if you remember. She said we should be talking about everything else except this.
Oh, did she say it on Jira earlier?
Twitter was indeed communicating with the federal government to censor Americans. I'd like to remind you that this was all in place before January 6th. So to say that these mechanisms weren't in place and to make it about January 6th, I want to let you know that you guys were actually in control of all of the content, and clearly we have proof of that. Now, if you don't think that this is important to your constituents and the American people from those saying that this was a pointless hearing, I suggest you find other jobs. Chairman, I yield my time.
So she said to AOC, if you think this is pointless hearing, I suggest you find another job.
Oh my God, violence?
So, yes.
She was violent to her?
Yes.
Wait, oh, come on.
You think I'm kidding?
I was kidding when I said that.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Chair, yeah, I just want to call to the attention of the chair and members
Yes,
that we're getting awfully close to witness intimidation.
Awfully close to witness intimidation.
Stochastic intimidation, many experts call it.
She's talking to the head fucking spook over at Twitter, the guy who's in charge of censoring doctors, scientists, and presidents. But he's being intimidated.
With,
I would add,
with proof of his actions.
With proof of his actions. Watch this.
the chair intervene.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Mr. Maffei.
I said I would caution all members that we were getting very close to witness intimidation, right on the verge of it, and I would ask that the chair and the ranking member agree how we will proceed from this point on. It was the threats that were just made.
Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in follow-up to that, I am curious about the committee's rule or the committee's disposition, accusing witnesses of a crime, discussing arrest, discussing, making these allusions and threats. I want to clarify for the record, what is the committee's policy around threatening a witness?
She is there not trying to grill these Twitter motherfuckers. She's there trying to make sure they don't have to face questions. And she's trying to intimidate the other Congress people from asking hard questions of the social media censorers. That's literally what she's doing.
I can't believe she actually. I was making a bad joke.
Is it? Watch, Kurt. Watch. She's doing it.
We have the member decorum.
And around the rules of decorum, can we agree that threatening a witness comes close to broaching general decorum?
Threatening. She just said they were threatening a witness. She just said that they were threatening her. You're threatening her.
To AOC, find another job.
Yeah.
Not even to the witness.
No, she's saying that she was threatening the witness with prosecution for breaking the First Amendment.
Oh, wait, since when do they not do that?
They always do that. They always.
Does broach general decorum of the committee?
With all due respect, Mr. Ocasio-Cortez, we don't agree that there was any witness threatening.
In threatening, when we discuss arrest, when we discuss potential arrest of a witness and alluding to a witness or suggestion of a witness committing a crime without evidence and without.
He showed the evidence,
Evidence
though.
is right there in the room.
The evidence. She showed the evidence.
Did you not see that part?
Did you not see that part?
Were you
with
doing
your
a
big
TikTok or something?
You have the big enough glasses, you'll be able to see it.
Without documents being supported to the record.
Can you be more specific?
When we talk about arresting a witness, or when we talk about a witness, insinuating the witness is lying without documentation, I fear that this constitutes threatening a witness, and that will broach the rules of decorum of this committee. And I'd like to ask that we request witnesses be treated with respect. Thank you.
God.
Wow. So this is big deal, and this is what your Democratic representatives are doing. for once, the Republicans are doing something worthwhile for once. And of course, the Democrats are there to kneecap it. And of course, the establishment, because the establishment wants to kneecap it.
Well, AOC has a point. Let's face it, no one's being arrested.
She does have a point. By the way, the FBI has rejected the characterization of an inappropriate relationship with Twitter or any other social media company. Really? You were directly telling them what to do. It said social media companies voluntarily provide information to the Bureau, to FBI, when the company believes there's a serious risk of death or serious... Fuck, they're such bullshitters. So this guy confronts that Yoel Roth, the head censorer over at Twitter. And so these were the people in charge of deciding what should be taken down on social media during an election. So watch this.
Gentleman yields back. I'll recognize myself now for questioning. The Biden family investigation begins with the story of how big tech, the media, former intelligence agents, and the Bidens themselves suppressed the story of Hunter Biden's laptop weeks before the 2020 election. Today, we're hearing from Twitter executives who buried the New York Post laptop story, claiming it violated the platform's hacked materials policy. In reality, the Twitter executives were hostile towards conservatives and biased towards anyone who opposed their points of view.
No, you can't deny that anymore. But watch this. So this guy is the guy he's talking to, and this guy is the head guy in charge of censor stuff over at Twitter. And he was in charge of censoring the president of the United States at the time. And this is what he said about the president and the conservatives in the White House. Watch this.
Example, Mr. Roth, did you write this tweet?
I regret the language that I used in some of my former tweets, but yes, I did post that.
And I'll read the tweet so it's in the record. Yes, that person in the pink hat is clearly a bigger threat to your brand of feminism than actual Nazis in the White House.
So the guy who's the head censorer over at Twitter is publicly calling everyone in the White House a Nazi. And he's not smart enough to know that, hey, that might show you have a little bias. He's calling everyone in the White House. How many people work in the White House? 100, 200? I know there's at least 200 people who work at Dr. Phil. So there's got to be at least that many people in the White House.
I've never seen people this bad at identifying Nazis in my entire life.
As they send literal Nazis $100 billion in aid.
What is a Nazi exactly?
Watch this.
Mr. Roth, do you think all conservatives are Nazis?
Certainly not, sir.
What about the hundreds of people who worked in the Trump administration?
Certainly not.
Did Ms. Gaddy or any other lawyer at Twitter ever tell you to take down that tweet?
No, Twitter did not have a practice of restricting employees' share.
So this guy's working with. So that was an okay tweet, by the way. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can call everybody in the White House a Nazi. That's an okay tweet.
I don't care. I just don't want you in charge of what I get to tweet.
That's okay because he said it. But if somebody else said it, it would be considered hate speech. It would be considered violence.
Stochastic.
It would be considered stochastic terrorism, and they'd have to take it down. But he said it against his political enemies, and that's why it's okay. And if you're and nobody's nobody in the country seems to be upset about this. That to me, that's the amazing part. So we have obvious.
They're upset attending.
What's that?
They're upset attending.
Yeah.
They're upset somebody's on Twitter right now making sure no one can say things.
They want more. And this is the collusion of the FBI and social media. This is the government and the media and the FBI coming together to censor you.
Their personal viewpoints on the service.
Okay. Turning back to the...
And let's remember what Ron Paul told us.
Most of our history, we didn't have those institutions. The FBI came in during the First World War. And interestingly enough, one thing that Woodrow Wilson did, he used the FBI to spy on American citizens and actually arrest them if they disagreed with his foreign policy about going to war in Europe.
Boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same, huh? Isn't it amazing? Doing live stand-up comedy in Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member. Get access to all our content.